Hello, this is Ricardo Francis, the Venting Vigilante. It's good to be with you again today. Today we're going to talk about barbering. Yes, barbers, wonderful profession, wonderful people that make a significant contribution to our lives in terms of how we look. Of course, in my case, I use a barber because, as you can see, I just came from the barber. I just had a haircut. Of course, I had to remind my barber when I went to see him that I was not there for any bloodletting. Bloodletting was, of course, cutting your body to let some of the blood out, hopefully to balance it out. That was a belief as part of the medical history going back for some period. I wasn't there for an enema, which is where you put the instrument where the sun doesn't shine. And clearly speaking, I wasn't there to have my tooth removed. Friends, barbers apparently perform those surgeries historically. So the history goes, because priests and medicine men were the only one allowed to cut your hair. Apparently your hair has spiritual components to it. There was a point in time in history where people did not cut their hair, and of course there was a point in time where you were to cut your hair. Even priests didn't cut their hair until the Roman Catholic Church made a decree that priests should shave their faces and of course cut their hair. Friends, barbering, of course, as we know it, is to cut your hair. You get a shave, whatever the circumstances may be. Of course, back in historically, you had hairdressers, you had wig makers, you had hairstylists, you had cosmetologists. There's an interesting history in terms of this whole, what I refer to as this whole makeup business. But anyway, let's stick with the barbering business for this video at this particular point in time. Friends, barbers, of course, paid a significant and pivotal contribution towards medical services. Of course, they worked during wars, where they performed medical services on the front line. Clearly, physicians, of course, employed the services of a barber, because physicians did not want to get involved in surgery. So barbers were referred to as barber surgeons. They had the sharp instruments, of course, to perform these services, and they performed the services as requested by a physician. And in some cases, they performed the services on their own. Which in particular leads to the pole that we see as the barber pole today, because barbers used to take blood when they do the bloodletting, and they put it in their window to advertise and say, perhaps you need some bloodletting done right now. And then this is where they came up with the idea of the pole, where the white represents the bandage, the red represents the blue. Of course, some point in time the blue was added. It is believed that the blue was added to represent veins, or in the alternative, it is believed that it was added as a representation of the American flag when it got to North America. So each and every time you see a barber shop, or you see that sign, you know it's a barber shop, and now you know the history. Friends, barbers today, of course, don't engage in that type of practice anymore, because, of course, I was George III in the UK when the Royal Society was formed, where the barbers were no longer allowed to do these things, and of course, physicians became surgeons, and surgeons then had to engage in these types of practices. Friends, barbers today still cut hair. I go to a barber. I don't go to a hairstylist. I don't go to a cosmetologist to cut my hair. Of course, every different country you go to, they have different legal requirements in terms of the training of a barber, and licensing process of a barber. There's, of course, an apprenticeship of a barber, and so on and so forth. So this whole barbering business has a long history in terms of the contribution to society, the contribution to many different components of society. Clearly, when you look at the soldiers, it was at the beginning of World War I that soldiers in the developed world, especially Western society, when they went to war, they had a crew cut just to ensure that they didn't have lice, and of course they didn't get diseases where hair is concerned. So bacteria get caught in the hair. The same thing in World War II. So today you see a lot of soldiers. They have crew cuts, and they have Princeton cut. I personally like that type of haircut. Historically, and of course, I'm a pretty traditional fellow where my haircut is concerned. So, friends, there are many things around us that we see, that we take for granted. I'm sure many of you may have seen the barbering sign, or we go into a hair salon, which they are known to be a hairstylist or a hairdresser, and we don't know the history, the real history behind the development of hair, and that there is a spiritual and a religious and a biblical component to your hair, and how all this haircutting business came about. Friends, I love you. I love sharing these moments with you. See you next time.